Good morning, Facebook friends. Helen Archontou here, CEO of the YWCA of Northern New Jersey, TGIF. So happy to have time with you today on this Friday. It's been a great week of YWTVs. We've had so many great conversations, and today is no different. Another opportunity to educate and inspire you all on another very important topic. Today, we're going to be talking about something that impacts so many women, and especially we've seen an increase and a rise during this time of the pandemic. Several studies have found that Americans are drinking far more than they did in previous years. And it's also women who are drinking more for sure. While we may joke with women, and our girlfriends about drinking a lot more during the pandemic, it really also is not a joke. It's alarming, the numbers of women that are becoming very heavy drinkers. And we know that they are probably sipping themselves down a very dangerous path and creating some behaviors and some, that are going to be, difficult to shift. But not insurmountable, because there is help out there, there is support out there. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm so glad to have a very, very long time and wonderful friend of the YW, and happy to claim her as one of my own as well, to join us to bring this conversation, this important conversation to you today. Dee Waddington has a strong, long background with this organization. She is a former YWCA employee. She's devoted so much of her life to the infrastructure that we stand on as an organization and help building what we do today. I admire and I respect her, and she's going to share some of her insights around this very, very serious issue. But let me start by telling you about Dee in more detail. She, as I said, was the former executive secretary for the Department of Health and Education and Welfare, and then Job Corps before she moved to Alabama to start a family. Both of her children were born in Huntsville, but after 12 years, her family moved to New Jersey to be closer to extended family. She soon started volunteering for various organizations, including serving on the YWCA's newcomer board of directors for 3 years, and then began working at the YWCA in 1980, where she was with us for 25 and a half years. I think you still, maybe you're one of our, still on the books as our longest employee for the organization. We have a few that are getting close, but I think you still win that space, Dee. As the former director of the YWCA Bergen County's Women's Center Department, Dee supervised, coordinated, and developed a diverse programs for us, including the Single Parents Group, Women for Sobriety for 17 years, the Bergen County Rape Crisis Center, she oversaw that area, our racial justice programs. She has served on the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Birthday Observance Committee, and Encore Plus, which was a free breast cancer screening program that our organization had at one point. And she did many major events for this organization, including some of our annual ones that were at the time were Pamper Yourself Day for Women, volunteer recognition events, our twin program, Career Options Unlimited, Women's History events. Those of you that are regulars in the YW can see the evolutions of these programs that she started and what we are doing today, and how they were really built on what she started for the organization. She was honored in fall of 2006 with the Rose and Scroll Women of Achievement Award by the Bergen County chapter of the New Jersey Association of Women Business Owners for outstanding community leadership, role model, and advocacy for women. She is now back again living in Alabama and is active in her community there, volunteering, and she has been facilitating the Women for Sobriety group for the last 14 years. And so with that, I welcome Dee Waddington.
Wow, thank you so much. I am so excited to be able to share this information about Women for Sobriety. So thank you, Helen, for having me here this morning. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm so glad that you can make the time to join us and beam up to us. I mean, that's the beauty of technology that we have during this time, to be able to have you be the person to share this, because of your history with the organization and the history with this program. I couldn't think of a better person for this discussion. And I do stay connected to you and know the work that Women for Sobriety is still doing today and the impact that they're having. And as we have been looking at the numbers rising in this area, it just seemed really important to have this conversation today. So tell us a little bit about what compelled you personally to get involved with this program, not only in New Jersey, but in Alabama, and just, make this, a core component of your life.
Yes, it's been 33 years altogether. And I actually was at a retirement party for a YW coworker in a local church. I was walking down the hallway. I looked over and I saw a woman that I recognized, but I couldn't remember who she was. But I knew that I knew her. Walked over to her. We were chatting a little bit, and she had a sign up on the door there, WFS meeting. And she seemed a little embarrassed that I recognized her. And after we spoke a short time, she was a twin honoree. And I thought to myself, how wonderful that she's helping these other women, because, a professional businesswoman could certainly not have a drinking problem. I needed a lot of education. So the next day she called me, she invited me to lunch. She shared with me her involvement with Women for Sobriety, gave me a book that was written by the founder, Dr. Jean Kirkpatrick, called Goodbye Hangovers, Hello Life. I read it and I thought, well, shortly after that, I was promoted to the director of the Women's Center Department. And I thought this was the most empowering, positive program in recovery I have ever heard of in my life. And it was the first and only women's program developed by a woman for women. And so I decided that I really wanted to bring this to the YW. I wanted to empower women because that's our mission at the YW. Mm-hmm. So I decided, I called Dr. Kirkpatrick's office. She came and spoke in New Jersey at our YW. And on the way back, I said to her, do you think I have a drinking problem? She said, Dee, if you have to ask, you probably do. And so I decided that I wanted to be a facilitator. But you have to have a year's clean sobriety. And I thought, oh, that's easy because I don't have a problem. I come home at night and I drink a lot, but I'm fine during the day. And after 3 months of not drinking, I thought, I was really in denial. I really depended on that alcohol to calm my feelings, my thoughts. And so a year after I quit drinking, I became what they called then a moderator. Now they call it a facilitator. And I started a group at the YW, and I led that for 17 years. It changed my life. It gave me confidence. It gave me the ability to be in touch with my feelings, to not numb them, to run away from them. And the beautiful thing about WFS is that we do not have what they call drinking stories or drug stories, because then you start comparing yourself. And you say, well, I'm not nearly as awful as that person. But we're all there for the same reason. So it doesn't matter what our story is. What matters is in our own personal life, if alcohol or drugs are causing a problem. And so it's just been a gift to me.
Yeah. Well, I know from the years of knowing you how important this program is to you, and how much of yourself that you've given back to it. So I'm thinking about our viewers, and again, I kind of talked about it, in the intro. It's not uncommon for, especially we see it on Facebook. There's a million memes of our friends holding the wine glass and, rosé all day. And, there's, and it's not uncommon for us, with our girlfriends to say, oh my God, momming is so hard. I can't wait for my glass of wine at night, and how, but we've normalized some of that, right? So that it doesn't necessarily seem as if it's problematic on the surface, to anybody looking, because it has just become a thing. How do we, as women, kind of stop and do what you did, right? I mean, you did it because someone introduced you to a program and that had you look inward. But for those that, maybe aren't in that place, in that space, how can we stop and look at our behaviors and say, maybe this is something I need to take a look at and, pull under control?
I have a couple of thoughts on that. The first thing is like what happened to me. I thought that I didn't have a problem. And then when I stopped drinking, that's when it really struck me that I was in denial. I was using alcohol, as I said, not to have my feelings. Like when I came home, I just didn't want to feel the unworthiness that hating myself because I didn't believe in myself. So I would say, try stopping for 2 weeks. See if that makes a difference. But I have found that most women feel that they know when it's causing a problem in their life. If they feel like every time they come home that they have to start drinking, or when they go out and they find that they are not stopping and maybe their friends did. And then there's that fear of, you feel that you can't drive home, then you probably drank too much. But if it's causing a real problem and it's consistent, I would say try stopping. Just try stopping if you think it's a problem. Because no one can decide that for you except yourself.
Powerful.
Because I've heard so many women say, well, my spouse or my child or someone said, you need to stop drinking. But if you're in denial, especially, that you won't hear that because you don't want to give it up. And for women, we do. That's why Jean Kirkpatrick wrote the program. Women have different needs in recovery. The guilt and shame that we have, just naturally, I believe, as women sometimes, that just only increases if you feel that you have a drinking problem. And so with WFS, there is no shame and guilt.
I really, I love what you just said in terms of, how simple it is, right? That you just try it, give it a test. And I also, you also said something which, hopefully is giving our viewers something to think about, is that it doesn't mean that you have to be to the point where you can't drive your car, that you have a problem, that there is a continuum, and that, way before that, is something that maybe you need to look at if you're that dependent on it. And if it's kind of giving you, becoming a crutch, for you to get through, a tough time, a tough day, or a day, whether or not it's tough anymore, because that's what it's evolved into for you.
And yes. And, I think if you are feeling really, you're not having any fun anymore, like, in the beginning, because most women, well, most people, you don't like the first drink and say, oh, well, I'm going to have an addiction now. It's so subtle the way it comes into your life as a true addiction by the time you recognize it. And this isn't everyone. This is generally speaking. But I just knew that I was so unhappy and I just didn't like myself. So I'm just really grateful. And I will tell you, Helen, the women that I have met over the years, to watch them grow from someone who doesn't have any self-love or self-worth into really feeling so empowered and having confidence and being assertive, it's so beautiful to watch. I feel privileged to be a part of that journey of theirs.
Yeah. So, well, that's amazing. So let's talk about this past year, right? I mean, this was a thing before March 2020. Obviously, this is obviously, a serious issue that has impacted women before this time. And a lot of people did ramp up their drinking over this time, just out of the stress, out of the boredom, out of the isolation, all of what we experience. And a lot of them are probably thinking, well, when we get out again, I'll put it behind me. Like it's just something I'm doing for now, right? So can you talk to us a little bit about this time of the pandemic and what you're seeing, through your work with Women for Sobriety, and what kind of conversations we should have with ourselves when trying to evaluate this time and any change in behavior with drinking?
It is the change in behavior. And what I have heard is the pure isolation and loneliness, because for women just generally that are using alcohol or drugs to run away or numb their feelings, being isolated has just really increased that feeling of not being connected. And that is why this year everything's on Zoom. We have done, I would say that all of the groups have done Zoom meetings. And that has been in fact, there's more people attending now, more women attending, because it's so available. They can be right in their home. They have to worry about, the child care or getting dressed and driving, an hour. Some women have driven an hour to go to a meeting. So this has just been such a gift for women who are sitting at home and wondering, how can I change this? And, even in the meetings, I really wanted to share this, is we introduce ourselves as competent women because we feel that alcohol or drugs is what we use to cope. It is not our identity. We are competent women. And when we read the 13 statements of acceptance for a new life, we share a positive that we've maybe reacted differently, felt differently during the week, so that we can really, and how it relates to one of the 13 statements, so then we can really see that we are making those inner changes. So for us, it's all about building up and encouraging. If someone does have a relapse or they're concerned, this is a safe place to share that, because you need to feel that if you're struggling, that there will be no shame and guilt or judgment placed upon you. And that is exactly what does not happen in Women for Sobriety meetings. It's just, we are there to support and encourage, and for you to learn what is it that you're trying to, numb or run away from. What are you trying to escape? What is that feeling? And so I'll tell you, Helen, I think loneliness is at the top this past year. That isolation, people working from home, they miss, that interaction with people in the office or whatever they're doing. So I encourage any woman to check out the womenforsobriety.org website. There are meeting locators. There is the online community where there are 30 meetings a week now, in addition to the local ones across the United States and Canada and the world. So you're not alone. You are not alone. I think technology has been a really great asset for us this past year. And but this is what I am hearing, Helen. Most women are feeling this loneliness and isolation. Even with parents, doing the technology at home. They're not teachers, and the teachers are missing out too, because this is not what they signed up for, to be doing it, virtually. So that there's just so much of just being inside.
Yeah.
Alone. it's really been hard. And so drinking has increased.
Yeah. Well, one of our viewers is asking the question about the age of individuals to participate in Women for Sobriety. She's asking if students can attend. And Meg, I'm not sure what age the students that you're asking about are, but what is the age group, Dee, for attendees?
It's 18 and up.
Great. So for our viewers, anyone who's interested, it's age 18 and up. And let us know if you have any other questions. We'll be sure to answer them now. Or if you're watching this later, you can ask a question in the comments and we'll make sure that Dee gets it so that she can respond as well. So Dee, let's talk for a minute. Meg asked the question about the age group. I mean, someone watching may be thinking about, somebody watching may be thinking about, maybe this is for me. You talked about all these virtual meetings, you talked about these in-person meetings. How does somebody learn and get more information about Women for Sobriety and how to connect? Do they just show up at a meeting? Is there a process beforehand to kind of get screened or assessed? What do they need to know?
Okay. Well, we don't screen. Usually what happens, because of the womenforsobriety.org website, there are meeting locators. So you can go there and say, this is my zip code, this is where I live. And then an email will be sent to the facilitator. And then we respond. When we had face-to-face, mostly,
Right.
People would call. And I always love when women call ahead of time, because then I can tell how the meeting structure, and because one of the things is you cannot come to the meeting if you had anything to drink or taken a drug that day, because we want you to be clear-minded at least for that day to come to the meeting, because we are an abstinence. I can't even say the word. No drinking. That is the goal. But, that doesn't happen when you just show up for a meeting. But I would say go to the womenforsobriety.org website and you can get a meeting locator. And then you can register for the online forum, the one that I shared with you about the 30 meetings. And they have like a newbies group, a girlfriends group, a book discussion group. Oh my gosh. Like they pledge to be sober that day. There is so much available. It's amazing. The emotional support in this program is like something I have never seen before. We share a phone list with those who come to our face-to-face meetings, so that, because we don't have sponsors, our goal is for you to be in charge of your own life. But we're there to support you in many ways. So I would say go to the website and you can find the meeting locator. You can register for the online community. You could be on there every day, and it's 24/7. So if you wake up at 3 in the morning and your thoughts won't stop, you can get on the online forum and you'll get a positive response in a very quick amount of time. So I would encourage that.
That's wonderful. So again, for our viewers, as Dee shared, you can go to the links that we have here in comments very easily to go learn more about the program. It sounds like there's so many great options in terms of meetings and everything from time to different connections to them, like a book discussion group or so there's a lot of opportunity. So we do encourage you to go and check it out. YWTV is really all about sharing information. And so we do encourage you to think about the people in your life. And I know this is a sensitive topic. So if you send it to somebody, that might feel challenging to do. But, it's wonderful to even just share this to your Facebook page or, bring it up in a conversation that you have with someone, after watching it. You never know who it's going to help. and who it will start to put them down a path to a better, healthier life, and different decisions for themselves and the people around them because of your action of sharing this information.
I wanted to say, Helen, our philosophy is to release the past, plan for tomorrow, and live for today. And at the end of our meetings, this is our motto, and I have it up here. I know it by heart, but I didn't want to say it incorrectly. So it says, we are capable and competent, caring and compassionate, always willing to help another, bonded together and over our addictions. So we call ourselves 4C women: capable, competent, caring, and compassionate. And this June 11th through the 13th, there is going to be another virtual conference. We had our first one last year. It was phenomenal. And the theme this year is possible. Mm-hmm. And it's very reasonable. It's like $25, $50 or $75 to register for the virtual conference in June.
Wow. And that's wonderful to hear. And we can, if there's information about that too, let us know. We're happy to put that into the link also, so people can consider, connecting through the conference as well, and getting a wider exposure, from that experience.
Oh, thank you.
For sure.
Yeah, it's all there. It is all there. And I just want to share one thing, because I know we're getting to that time, that the 13 statements of acceptance for a new life. My favorite one in the very beginning was, the past is gone forever. No longer will I be victimized by the past. I'm a new woman. I lived in the past. I hurt from the past. And whenever I started going back there, I would say, no, that was then. I've forgiven myself. I have to be responsible for who I am today. And that's the empowerment. And I am so grateful to the YWCA for that mission statement, because that is what drew me to Women for Sobriety, is the empowerment of women to be in charge of their lives and to move forward.
Wow. I know it's emotional for you. I know it is. And I'm so grateful that you shared so much of your own personal story. And I know you're always willing to do that, to, put a hand out to another to help, bring them along. And, it's important to hear stories and hear people's stories, because it does help us figure out our own, for sure. So I really do appreciate you sharing your story. I appreciate you sharing this tremendous resource and having this discussion with us. And again, for our viewers, we know that there's, a lot of social and antisocial connection to alcohol, and the passing glass of wine, or beer at the end of the night or earlier in the day. Just to, pass some time or some stress. But again, it's important to look at it through the lens of this discussion today, and really have a little conversation with yourself. Take the test that Dee suggested, stopping for a period of time and seeing if, that's something that you can do to help you put your behaviors into some clarity, for yourself, and being able to make decisions, again, for your wellness and your health, for yourself and for those around you.
Absolutely. And again, if you look at the 13 statements, if you go to the website, it's really a guide for living. And there are women who have actually used the 13 statements, even if they don't have a drinking problem, because it's such a positive way of living a life of empowerment and assertiveness and self-love, self-worth.
So we do encourage, again, everyone to connect to the website, get some information, and thank you so much for joining us today, Dee.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's my pleasure. I always love any opportunity to get to see you. I'm sorry it's not in person, but we all know that when Dee is in New Jersey, normally that there is some type of YW gathering because everyone is drawn to come spend time with this wonderful woman when she makes the pilgrimage each year normally. And we look forward to the next one. And until then, for all of our viewers, we do encourage you to stay connected to the YWCA, in addition to this empowering program that we have been, at the forefront of, helping set up for our community. There's lots of other important programs happening, especially I just want to make sure to make note that for any BIPOC women, which are Black women, Indigenous women, and any women of color in our community that are starting a business or trying to continue to evolve their businesses, we encourage you to learn more about our Eureka Biz program, which is an opportunity for you to get access to a step-by-step course and a whole professional community of mentors and coaches and entrepreneurs to be able to support your program and your business. So we'll have the link here for you to sign up. There's no charge for that program. And April is also a time where we do focus on work we do throughout the year, but specifically our Sexual Assault Awareness Month activities are still going on. There's so many amazing programs from our team, our very committed, wonderful team at Healing Space, whether it's resources to educate and support the community or for survivors. So please go check out our Facebook page and our website to access the calendar of what's still happening between now and the end of the month. It's also our Stand Against Racism. We have some important conversations that we are hosting and sharing that all culminate with our Racial Justice Awards on April 29th at 7 p.m., where we will be honoring some distinguished trailblazers who are really making a difference in our community in this area. And also be thinking about summer. Summer camp is coming, and we do encourage you to go check out our options. We have some, obviously this year especially and differently to make sure that we are supporting our families during this time. We have all the health considerations and safety considerations paramount in our planning for camp this summer, but we have not foregone any of the fun. And the socialization that we know that our kids need, the activities and the outdoor fresh air that they need. And our amazing camp team has worked diligently to put together some great experiences. So we do encourage you to consider those as well. Everyone have a great weekend. Stay safe, be well. Put some thought into our conversation today. Think about people in your lives, that might also benefit from hearing it, and share it with love, from a space of, putting out a hand to help for sure. Dee, big love.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend. See you next week.